welcome. It's round 7 of the Season 12 Tier 8 Championship for ACC, hosted by Apex Online Racing. This is the final round, and as we go into this round, the Drivers' Championship looks like this. Masika Chief of Visually Impaired Racing currently has a 40-point lead over Rudy Geese in second place, so very tight between those two drivers. Just behind them is Oscar Motin, but we've had word that he won't be driving this week, so Oscar won't be able to interfere with the Drivers' Championship. Cav Bud, though, is just in contact, 392 points, so if he can get a really good result on this round and Masij and Rudy Geese not have a good result, then that could really spice things up for the Drivers' Championship. Moving further down, those first 4 drivers are really beyond the reach of the remainder in the top 10 of the Drivers' Championship. Steve Banks got 263 points, Mamal Duque in 6th place has got 255. Tom Griffiths 246, Judah Mihai 241, so it's really close there between 5th to 8th. George Darras is quite a bit behind, really. 80-point gap between him and Judah Mihai. And Stefan Blay is in 10th place on the Drivers' Championship, 160 points. That big victory he had in round 5 gave him a big leg up, but I believe he may not be driving today, so Stefan is likely to drop out of the top 10. As for the Teams' Championship, no movement for the top 3. Visually Impaired Racing came away from Suzuka, still in the lead with 78 points over Rev Sport International in second place. Gently Bentley and the Lexus are in third. And Suzuka Beeswax Racing managed to move ahead of Urban Led, but they're still pretty close between the pair of them. But with no appearance this week from Stefan Blair and Nico Urbantat, there's going to be no change in that position for certain. The real battles, I think, may be between Rev Sport International and VIR. But again, VIR have got no blind guy Murphy this week. And Gently Bentley and Beeswax, so there'll be a bit of a stretch. Mamal Duque and Paul Martin both have really bad results. And for myself and Lord Nem to probably win and come second today for us to really overtake Gently Bentley. Rounding out the table, Riders on the Storm, Daniel Vallis and Steel Co are unfortunately too far out of reach to be able to catch anybody. So let's see how this round goes. Possible mixed weather for this one, chance of rain, and very changeable during the race. 60-minute race, mandatory pit stop for changed tyres. Let's see how this final round of Season 12 pans out. So you join us as the drivers line up for the start of the final round of Season 12 for the Apex Online League. For GT3s in ACC, Tom Griffiths qualified on pole, Steve Banks qualified second, Sheik Chief Visually Impaired Racing qualified in third, and Rudy Geese, probably his closest competition for the Drivers' Championship, qualified in fourth. Already a drive-through for Steel Co as they go into turn 1. Got a big overshoot there from Tom Griffiths after that good qualifying, and it looks like Cav Bud there nips through to take the lead of the race in turn 1 after the leaders really seem to mess up the braking point and they all seem to overshoot that first corner. So Cav Bud into the lead, and this could do his championship hopes a lot of good. He was coming in 4th on this round in the Drivers' Championship, so he needs a very good result. He's already pulled away a length. That 3 wide, that really didn't work, and one driver got bumped right into the grass there. It looked like it may have been Ron, perhaps, in the McLaren, currently showing 5th on the computer, but it is slow to catch up. Having get his Braun, who ended up on the grass. He came out of that well, though. He's in front of everybody else. So Tom Griffiths has recovered back to second place, but definitely a great start there for Cav Bud. Cav taking the lead, and he'll either need to build on this and hope that his competition in the form of Masika and Rudy Geese really drop away. They do appear to have fallen back a little bit. Tom Griffiths already making a bit of an attack on the Honda, but he's not really going to be able to do well from there. Lost a lot of time there with that attack. Not a great place, because there's no way around on the outside on that corner. And they're coming down the back straight now in the final portion of the first lap. Through the chicane for Cav. Tom Griffiths right on his tail, and it's Brown who's come through into 3rd place in that first lap. So he got jinked onto the grass. Did Braun in sector 1 as they were going up towards the turn 6. He didn't seem to have done it too much damage. He's on the back of these two. Banks slipped into fourth. Bit of a gap to the first three. Quite tentative through that first corner. Braun looked a bit wide there. Maybe have lost touch a little bit with those leaders. Banks is through. Masic in the BMW is in 5th place. Rest of the field coming through. A lot further down the field. And an incident there we're just picking up. Mihai and Beeswax Racing slow to recover. I can confirm was involved. Mihai went into the back of me, it spun me out. But Steelco picked up a drive-through penalty at the start of the race. Did look back on that on the replay for him, and it didn't look like he was out of position at the start, so it was the most unusual penalty. But it is what it is. He's served that now, and he needs to get back into the race. Out front, Cav Bud still hanging on to the lead. Tom Griffiths all over the back of him, and they're reading 5. All pretty close to each other, and Rudy Geese just in contact with the back of them. Through the Schumacher S's. Tom Griffiths not close enough to make an attack this time, but will be able to carry more speed as a result through this couple of corners and into the long back straight. Braun still very much in contact, but then a gap between Braun and Banks. So these three really trying to get away from everybody else at the moment. Bud through the chicane safely. Griffiths right on his tail. Let's have a little look into the final corner, but there's really no way through there. It's very high speed entry. So it'd have to be rather a bold move to get a pass done. Down the start finish straight and over the line. Tom trying to put Cav Bud off there, close to the outside. But he won't be alongside enough to be able to get on the inside of turn 2. And he's allowed the Honda of Bud to pull away slightly there. Braun still in contact. Looking for an opportunity when these two maybe start fighting each other. Steve Banks just ahead of Masic and visually impaired racing. And Geese trying to hang on to the back of these two. Schmizak and the Ferrari in 7th place. Mamo Duque gently bentling the Lexus. They're in 8th. Boromechkov, another Ferrari, driving in 9th place through the hairpin at the bottom of the course. Back up towards the Schumacher S's again. And most of the field looking reasonably in close contact with each other. You see Beeswax Racing there at the top of the screen. And now lost contact with that hit and spin on the end of lap 1. Drivers have dropped down the field, Lord and them. The other Beeswax Racing driver is down in 21st place, so something happened to him on the first lap as well while we were watching the leaders. Steelco trying to get back into the race, having had that penalty at the start. Now 15 seconds at the back of the Beeswax Racing car, which is definitely out of contention now. Cav Bud now got an enormous lead over Tom Griffiths. Over that lap, 1 second gap, so Cav perhaps able to settle into a rhythm now. Tom will need to focus on getting back in contact with the leader. Going through sector 1, Masic trying to close up on the back of Banks. Braun has gone. Braun's dropped back a little bit. We've missed it somewhere. Braun now in 5th place, so he's had a little bit of a slip up somewhere. Limited information on the replays, so sometimes you only find out about incidents after the drivers have changed position, unfortunately. Boromechkov in the Ferrari trying to get on the back of Duque. Showing Geese a lot closer to Braun. I think he's managed to get himself back together as Braun. He's now showing ahead of Masic. Oh, my mistake, that's Braun in the background there between Masic and Geese. Okay, trying to get onto the back of Geese whilst being chased by Baromechkov. Darash just in the background, just out of contact with these cars. Oh, bit of a slide there for Baromechkov as he went through turn 11 and through turn 12, a bit curve onto the back straight. That little slide is causing him to lose contact with Duque and has let Darash close up on the rear of him. Into the chicane they go with Darash close on the tail of the Ferrari. Paul Martin, the other Gently Bentley driver, just behind. I mean, any chance of Beeswax Racing catching Gently Bentley in this final round is pretty much over. Both Lord and their man, Steve Bezic for Beeswax Racing, right down the back end of the field, having both been involved in incidents on the first couple of laps. Through turn 1, Baromechkov trying to get back in contact with Duque in front of him. Well, out front, Tom Griffiths has got close enough to Bud that he's able to have a bit of a look to go through the end of sector 1 and through turn 6 and 7 down towards the hairpin. Hairpin, one of the places where you can make an attack if you can get up the inside of the car ahead of you, but all four of them really close to each other there. Mashij having to get out the throttle. He's going to the, and he's up alongside the McLaren of Banks. That's very, very brave to go around the outside of the Schumacher S's. A lot of cars lose control there, but he's done it. And Mashij goes through on Banks to take third place. And Braun massively overshoots there in the background. Right off track, and that's let Geese through. Braun having a bit of a nightmare here. Started off well, was in third, but has dropped slowly down the field. Tom Griffiths now, instead of looking forward at Bud, he's having to look over his shoulder at Mashij, who's making a big charge here. He's already through on Banks. He's now got his eye on the next BMW to try and get up the field. Bud will not be happy about this. Any opportunity to get it more involved in the Drivers' Championship will evaporate if Mashij is right on his tail. His lead is too big in the championship going into this round. He needs a really bad result for the visually impaired racing driver. Bud getting defensive going into turn 1. Forces both the BMWs to the outside slightly. Griffiths trying to have a look at the inside, but he's too far back. Needs to be careful he doesn't compromise himself and let Mashij attack him as they go into the next corner in sector 1. And the leaders must have slowed down because everybody's bunched up, seemingly down to about 8th place there. Griffiths having a look on the right side of the Honda, who's not on a great line to go through this next corner. Tom should get a bit more speed coming into the tight right-hander. Forward curve going down towards the hairpin. He's not close enough. I think Bud is hanging on by his fingernails here and under a lot of pressure. He's got Griffiths and Mashij right behind him. And Banks, Geese and Braun. And even Duque there, just getting into the picture. All lining up behind the Honda and putting the pressure on. We're only 5 laps in. Through the Schumacher S's safely. And onto the back straight. Oh, apologies, that was just the Schumacher S's then. Now we're going through. Oh, big slide then from the Honda. As he goes through turn 11, now through turn 12 onto the back straight. This could be Tom's best opportunity, that slide, of having him to get a little bit closer to the Honda. Can he get enough speed through this slight kink and up the hill towards the chicane? Don't think he can. The Honda's far enough ahead to get through the chicane. Closes up a little, but won't be close enough to make an attack through that final corner. The BMW of Mashij right onto the tail of Tom Griffiths there. No way through in the final corner. Over the start-finish line again into the next lap and up towards turn 1. This time the Honda's got a few car lengths and can choose his own line. Steve Banks back in the battle. catching up to the back of the number 15 BMW of Message. Super tight battle at the front of this race. Pressure on Tom from Message is allowing Bud to just steal a couple of car lengths. Darash trying to keep on the back of Borymechkov, but the Ferrari slowly, a little bit of a gap there. Paul Martin under a lot of pressure there. He's got Scooby-Doo coming through on defending from Field Racing Seb in the McLaren. And Logan's also involved in this. Then there's a bit of a gap down to Bauer, who's got Carson and Diesel behind him. And Beeler as well, just in picture, and Lord Nem from Beeswax Racing. Quite a gap of 5 seconds to Mihai, who had quite an adventurous race. Did see a report go through. Mihai unfortunately cut the first corner. T1 on lap 1, went over the grass and did gain a few places and didn't give them back. So no one went into the stewards. And then also at the end of lap 1, going into lap 2, he managed to hit me as well. So an adventurous race for Mihai. Myself for Beeswax Racing, only down in 20th place now. Already seeing this race really slipping away. Schmizak, who was up there, is now down in 21st, so something happened to the Ferrari. Out front, Cav Bud coming to finish another lap. Tom Griffiths right behind him. The gaps appear to have opened up a little bit. Message half a second behind on the BMW. Steve Banks and Geese and also Braun coming into the picture then. Braun slightly out of contact with this leading group of 5. Duque just on the edge of our picture is in 7th place. Very close all the way down the field at the start of this race. The weather prediction for this round was very mixed, with the strong possibility of rain, and in the event it's looking pretty dry at the moment. The weather prediction only going 30 minutes forward, but no signs of any rain yet. We're already quite a few minutes into this race, so a lot of drivers will have been preparing for bad weather and possibly even amended their setups to cope with that. No sign of the rain so far. Still, Cav Bud hangs on to the lead with an immense amount of pressure from Tom Griffiths and Mishikchi. Rev Sport International at the front of the race and Visually Impaired Racing in 3rd. Scooby-Doo still trying to catch and pressurise Paul Martin from Bentley in a Lexus. This race really settling down, it seems, into a series of little trains, illustrating that perhaps it's quite difficult to overtake at the Nurburgring for these drivers. Bauer down in 15th place. And Mercedes, I think he's been a regular driver this season. Trying to catch Carson, who was a new driver on the previous round. Diesel just in contact. Beeler behind. Lord Nem slowly dropped away from these, nearly a second off the back of Beeler at the moment. We have Bud into his 9th lap, still hanging on at the front of a race. From turn 6 and into turn 7 down the hill towards the hairpin. Still no signs of a chink in the armour from Bud. No way through for Tom Griffith. Gaps in between these lead 8 cars yo-yo up and down a little bit, but they all seem to remain in contact. BMW clearly gets through that hairpin better than the Honda. It seems to close up every single lap. But there's only really one line through the Schumacher S's. Up towards turn 11 and then turn 12 to the back straight. Cav, a little bit defensive from Cav there in the middle of the track, and it looked like the McLaren there, Banks went wide, gave Geese that opportunity, and Geese did go through. Geese crawled his way back up into 4th place now. He's got 2 McLarens behind him, and a bit of a gap to Duque. Braun's moved up to back of Banks. Into the pits. Something must have happened. He seemed to really lose momentum there. It's quite early for a pit stop. Well, Banks may be dropping out of contention in this race if he's pitting this early. It does indicate he may have damage. But shows that he's on there. The gap shows very well. Tom Griffiths into the dropped away as well. Tom Griffiths has dropped to 3rd place and is under danger of losing that to Geese. We were just catching Banks there going into the pits. Meanwhile, Griffiths drops away from 2nd, lets Mashij through. And was under a lot of pressure immediately from Rudy Geese in the Aston Martin. And they're all lining up behind. You can see Braun and Duque. Just outside of our shot, just coming there at the bottom is Boromechkov in the Ferrari. He's very defensive on the McLaren there, going through turn 6. He'll keep the McLaren off him now as he goes in towards the hairpin. I wonder what happened to Tom Griffiths there. Through the hairpin they go, and Geese has successfully held on there. A lot of pressure then from Braun. Whatever went wrong for Tom Griffiths, he went wrong in a big way. Through the Schumacher S's and coming up towards 11. The gap between Tom and Mashij is 0.8 of a second already. It's quite a big gap, really. Lexus there of Duque didn't look too comfortable coming out of turn 12. Up towards the chicane. Something happened in the chicane. It's quite easy to make a mistake. And into the pits goes the other BMW. Car's pitting very early in this race. Tom Griffiths into the pits. Has he also got damage? Mashij trying to have a look at the Honda, trying to go around the outside of turn 1. Too far back. Trying to get better acceleration towards T2. Geese and Braun are still battling it out. Going through sector 1 into turn 3. Duque has dropped backwards, indicating he's in the pits as well. Pretty wide there from the McLaren of Braun. Have to watch for track limits violations going that wide. Trying to hustle the Aston Martin of Rudy Geese. Rudy having none of it, just focus on getting around the next couple of corners and down towards the hairpin. And now Braun is slightly out of contact. Oh, is that a tap on the back then from the BMW on the Honda? I think he was caught out by how much the Honda of Cav Bud was slowing down there for the hairpin. It looked like a little tap on the rear. So under massive pressure, Cav Bud from Mashij. Through turn 11 into a right hander at turn 12 and down the back straight. Now Scooby-Doo trying to put pressure on Field Racing Seb, but also got the Ferrari of Logan's company. They come up towards the chicane. BMW should be quite comfortable going through the chicane, a front engine car. Usually better on the curbs, whereas the McLaren ahead of him and the Ferrari behind, off mid-engine, can be a little bit unstable when they hit some big curbs. A lot of cars pitting now. It feels very early to be pitting in the race. That looked like Braun and Darras boxing. Meanwhile, Cav Bud has elected to stay out. Geese has made his way all the way up to third place at the moment, and he's really in contact with these two leaders. So a pretty good drive from Geese, trying to keep his championship's hopes alive. There's the car in front of him that he needs to get past and put well behind him, really, which would maybe a tall order. Siege leading the Drivers' Championship for VIR as he comes into this final round. Down towards the hairpin again. I think the Honda is well clear there of the BMW. Geese trying to get back in contact. Just keeps drifting off the back of these two. Oh, and then another little tap. Another little love tap from the BMW on the back of Cav Bud. Trying to tell him to get a bit of a move on through the hairpin. Is that damage going to add up for the BMW and causing some problems? Or indeed for the Honda? Could be worse for the Honda. Diffuser damage can have a big impact on performance of the car. So Message is continually knocking on the back door of Cav Bud, coming down the back straight now and up the hill towards the chicane towards the end of a lap. One of the opportunities perhaps to make a pass is to get up the inside for the chicane and force your opponent to really have to slow down to ensure they'll make it. Not this time, into the last corner, and Geese is pitting now. So Geese drops from third into the pits, so he's definitely in contention with the leaders. It's all a case of how much lap time these drivers may be losing if their tyres are getting a bit worn. Still feels early for the first pit stop. One mandatory pit stop is required in these 60-minute races, and it's necessary to change tyres, so which means you'll get a 30-second pit stop minimum. Sector 1, now it's Boromeshkov who's at the background. Moment of glory for Beeswax Racing because everybody else is pitting. Made our way all the way up to 11th. Lord Nem is into 9th. I don't think it's going to last. Duque was one of the leaders. And he's in 16th place. Not too far behind the 833 and the 66 car. Paul Martin a long way down the field as well. Just behind Boromeshkov, so Paul Martin is almost a lap down, which indicates possibly something that's happened to him as well. Cav Bud still hanging on. He's on his 13th lap now, and we're definitely coming up soon to the main pit window, though a lot of people have pitted early. Oh! Boromeshkov dived off to the side of the track there. I don't know if he panicked last second. I thought he was going to go straight to the back of the BMW of Mishij. He took evasive action, took him right off into the runoff area, and he's dropped right down the field, really, I think. Got a Mercedes in front of him. It must be a lapped car. Mercedes of Bauer is shown in 23rd place. Head of Field Racing Seb, so Boromeshkov has held on to third, but what he needs to be aware of is a lot of the leading cars have pitted. And he's dropped 4 seconds behind Message on the last sector. So he's lost 4 seconds with that incident there, going wide on the track. And that will allow a lot of cars into that gap when the pit stops settle themselves out. Sector 1, got that Mercedes, who's a lap down, just ahead of them. Cav Bud stays out and everybody else pits. His gap now behind him for Cav is 4 seconds. We can relax a little. Boromeshkov has got Field Racing Seb breathing down his neck. At least he did do at the end of the last sector. Looks like he's stolen a few car lengths there as he go down towards the hairpin. Now, the computer officially saying 0.295 of a gap, but it looks a lot more than that, really. Scooby-Doo in 4th place, following his usual tactic of going long and then doing a pit stop and making a short final stint towards the end of the race. Not sure how well his tyres may thank him for that strategy, but it's what he likes to stick to. Scooby-Doo then up to 4th. just at the tail end of these, and the white car there was Logan's. Just down of contact, 10 seconds down on these is Lord Nem for Beeswax Racing. So both the Beeswax Racing cars are having a very difficult time on this race. The other Beeswax Racing 833 is a further nearly 6 seconds down on Lord Nem. And still, Cav Bud goes round to do another lap. No boxing still. Got that mandatory pit stop to serve. Borimeshkov 4 seconds down. Also stayed out. Field Racing Seb. Scooby-Doo on the back of this little train. Into the first sector. I think Scooby-Doo's close enough to be able to attack anybody from there. Steelcoat trying to get back into this race. Doing quite well, really. He's now in 9th place. Crossing the start-finish line. Remember, he did that drive-through penalty. So he's still trying to catch up with Beeswax Racing. Well, these drivers, Schmijak, Steelcoat, should all really drop to the back of the race when they box. Tom Griffiths, who was up there in 2nd place for the longest time, dropped to 3rd. He's now in 10th. I think nearly all the drivers ahead of him have still yet to box. Borimechkov definitely needs to pit. It's Field Racing Seb, Scooby-Doo, certain, and of course our leader on the road at the moment, Cav Bud. Went into the first place on T1 of lap 1, having qualified quite poorly again, down in 7th. But came out of that first corner ahead of everybody else after quite a few of them overshot. And he's held on to that lead ever since. It'll be interesting to see how, if he can do the overcut successfully on the rest of the field and come out ahead of the rest of the field from his pit stop, which he's still not done, into his 15th lap. Lord Nem for the chicane, and he also stays out. Beeswax Racing this close as he goes into the chicane. Also stays out. Isaac goes through. Steelco is just on the back straight. Cav Bud. A real test, I think. Who's the first real? Tom Griffiths maybe ahead of everybody. Siege somehow has dropped down to 13th place at the moment following the pit stop. So he was close behind Tom Griffiths and he's dropped a long way behind him. So maybe the undercut was the way to go. We're really telling when Cav Bud does pit if he does come out ahead of Tom Griffiths. So all eyes, I think, on Cav Bud's pit stop when it finally happens. Maybe Paul Martin there just behind him. It is indeed. The Gently Bentley driver unfortunately dropped to 22nd place. Trying to give the Beeswax team a little bit of a chance, I think, but his teammate Duque was showing a very, very long way forward. So currently running in 12th, just behind the Rudy Geese. So I imagine Duque is going to get a really high place on this race. Cav Bud looks to be around the back straight, coming up towards the chicane. Is he going to peel into the pits this time? This will be an important pit stop for Cav when it does happen. Through the chicane. And go straight through again. Going long. Very telling a bit how hard his tyres have been hit. Mechkov also stays out. Field Racing Seb and Scooby-Doo also remain out. Lord Nem boxes, so into the pits for Lord Nem, and if I recall correctly, I also boxed at this time, so we're about 33 minutes into the race. Both the Beeswax Racing cars in together. The gap though was quite substantial, approaching the pits at 6 seconds. So it's unlikely I'm going to be able to make up that time in the pits. Cav Bud, meanwhile, has got Paul Martin for company, but it's not technically a threat. Shouldn't be interfering with his race. Rev Sport International showing good points from this race, but I don't think it's going to be enough for their team championship. Cav Gold. I thought I saw Gold qualifying, but he does appear to have dropped out of the race. He's running solo, is Bud, so he's not likely to pick up enough points to really affect the team's championship on his own, despite having that lead at the moment. We'll find out after the race when we review the championship outcomes for both individual and team. But big slide from Paul Martin there in the Lexus. He did catch it, but lost a lot of momentum and drops right out the picture behind Cav Bud. Here we do, trying to catch up with Field Racing Seb still. Nurburgring proving a difficult track to overtake on. Opportunities only really come in when your opponent makes a mistake, and at long last, at the end of lap 16, Cav Bud does pit in. And where is Tom Griffiths? Coming through turn 11 and turn 12 and onto the back straight. That was the Schumacher S's, apologies. They look very similar, those corners from the air. Now it's turn 11 and turn 12. It does seem too far. Mechkov staying out at the moment. Cav still not moving. On the back straight, through the kink, up towards the chicane. And if that Honda starts moving now, he's easily in front of Tom Griffiths. It's not happening yet. Through the final corner, and if that Honda hasn't moved, I think Tom's going to be in the lead. Through the start finish straight. Still no movement from the Honda. And there he goes in picture. So Tom Griffiths moves into the lead of a race. Cav possibly did stay out for too long on those tyres. And Tom's well away. He's already through turn 1. And Cav is still next to the pit lane. I think he's lost a number of places with that pit stop strategy. It looked like I could see Steve Banks going through there. Indeed I could. And Braun. Well, Cav Bud, definitely not the right pit stop strategy, or there was a lot of repairs required. I can't see that because he'd been on his own almost the entire race, so he should have no damage. So that's a disaster of a pit stop strategy for Cav Bud. He's going to be well down. Tom Griffiths is easily away. Geese, Duque, Mashij, Steve Banks and Braun are all ahead of Cav Bud following that pit stop, so he's lost 6 places in that pit stop strategy, so total disaster for Cav. Any opportunity, I think, to get further up the Drivers' Championship gone away with that pit stop strats. He's going to have to have a word with his pit crew team about race strategies on that one, I think. Went way too long on those tyres from the looks of things and lost too much time. Will his tyres, though, be younger at the end of the race? He'll be able to make places back. He's already got 4 seconds just to catch up with Braun. It feels like it's too much of an ask for Cav to be able to get back into this race with fresher tyres. Meanwhile, Boromechkov is now in the lead of the race. And he stayed out because that's the end of Sector 1. Scooby-Doo is also with him. Field Racing Seb did pit. But Cav has already illustrated that going long of a Nurburgring perhaps is not a strategy that really pays off. We've seen how difficult it is really to overtake, so track position is everything, and those drivers that have pitted early have seemed to have got better track position. Tom Griffiths just waiting really for the race to come back to him and take the lead. Mechkov goes through the hairpin and up towards the Schumacher S's. The Mercedes behind him there is Bauer, who's unfortunately last in the race, so not a significant threat to Boromechkov. Scooby-Doo is just in a distance through turn 11 and 12 onto the back straight. But these leading drivers are surely going to have to pit sooner or later. Has Phil Racing's Seb pulled out some sort of blinding strategy? Because he seems to be sure he was in the pits and came out, and he's ahead of Tom Griffith. Where is he? He's a long way behind, isn't he? Because Tom has already been through the hairpin this time. That's when we caught him. And the Schumacher S is now on Phil Racing Seb. He's only just at turn 7 going down the hill. So no, he's dropped a long way down the field. Just the computer not catching up. Tom Griffiths looking very much in the commanding position to take the lead of this race. Cav Bud has disappeared. He's down in 10th at the moment. We've still got 3 drivers yet to box for certain. He's gone from 1st to 9th in that pit stop strategy. Totally not working out for him at all. Siege has dropped by. Also dropped back during the pit stops. Now behind Duque, trying to find a way past the Lexus. He's really close. There, he's coming towards the chicane. He's going to have to try and look at the inside. That'd be very, very brave indeed. Nope. Maybe the poor choice there because he's lost contact with Duque. And one of the best overtaking opportunities is into turn 1. So you really want to stay tight to the car in front through the chicane and try and get that better drive out the final exit and do something on the start-finish straight. You can see now that the BMW is more than a few car lengths out of touch with the Lexus, so nothing's going to be able to be done this time around through turn 1. Maybe with better braking and might be able to close up. There's never going to be enough to make any sort of attack through the first sector. Instead, Siege has got Steve Banks on the back of him, and that might serve as more of a distraction. And he's trying to get that lead back. Tom Griffiths' lead, following those pit stops, currently showing as 8 seconds over Geese. Well, Tom Griffiths' strategy, which was quite an early stop and a big undercut, has really paid off for the BMW driver. Where Mechkov, Scooby-Doo and Schmizak ahead all still have to pit. In fact, Schmizak has pitted and has just rejoined the track, so when the computer sorts itself out, Tom will have moved up to 3rd place. And he does it right on cue. Scooby-Doo stays out again. I don't think that the BMW driver is going to be able to get enough of a lead to even slightly threaten Tom Griffiths. Borymeshkov now pitting. That'll leave Tom in 2nd place. With just Scooby-Doo on the track ahead of him. 8-second lead remains over Geese. And all he needs to do now, from the looks of this, is just keep it together to the end of the race. And he's got this one in the bag. Everybody else has gifted it to him. He's still trying to find a way around Duque. Quite a few drivers just got terrible, terrible pit stops or some other incident that's pushed them down the field. But the closest threat to Message is Geese. He's only 2 places ahead of him, and there won't be enough points difference, I don't believe, to make a difference to the Drivers' Championship. So Cav Bud has recovered to 8th, but still really out of contact with the leader of the race. He won't get enough points to get involved in the championship, so it's really looking like Message's championship to throw away. And Borymeshkov got a stop-go 30, speeding in the pit lane. He's rejoined the track, but that is his race done. Stop-go 30 at this level is curtains. It's a whole extra pit stop, and he'll be right down the back of the field. Well, that's Borymeshkov's race down the drain. It happened to me at Silverstone. Not a very happy feeling. Well, you may see some drivers that you think perhaps are slowing down too much for the pit lane, but it's worth losing a second or 2 there than what's happened to Borymeshkov, which is really the end of his race. Scooby-Doo also pits. This will clear the way now for Tom Griffith, who's just about to go through turn 11 and turn 12 to get onto the back straight. Scooby-Doo has not even fully slowed down yet into his box. He's hit the pit lane limiter. Tom is already on the kink of the back straight, coming up towards the chicane. Should be well clear of the BMW of Scooby-Doo, so Tom Griffiths will come back to take the lead. Borymeshkov still has got that stop-go 30 to serve, and he's in 11th place, so he's going to be way, way, way down the back of the race, unfortunately for him. Used to be, you could be a bit cheeky with the old pit stops, but not anymore. Tom Griffiths through, Scooby-Doo still in the pits, so there we are. Tom moves into the lead of the race. Rudy Geese just going through turn 1 now, so 6.7 second lead. Well, Rudy is hauling that lead down. It was 8 seconds. Tom Griffiths not under a massive amount of pressure really. He's only about 7, 8, 9 laps to go. He's got a very comfortable lead over the Aston Martin. Amalduke somehow slipped his way into what will be third. He's still under pressure from Message. Scooby-Doo now back on track. Behind Cav Bud, behind Logans, behind Braun. Figure out where Phil Racing Seb is. I think he's behind Scooby-Doo. Hard to tell actually. Rory Meshkov still out on track. Still got a stop go 30 to serve, but it's currently looking like Tom Griffiths' race. That lead of 6 seconds. Geese potentially Geese could try and get back into this. It's a very, very big ask. Sheej unable to find a way past Duque. Possibly had fresh tyres when he was making those attacks, but now he's slipped back a little behind the Lexus. In the background hovering is Steve Banks, who's been there most of the way through this race. Chicane with no mistakes. Around the final corner. And the BMW there, Machine, too far away really to make an attack. Meshkov shown in 10th place. Through the chicane. He needs to serve this penalty within 3 laps or he will be disqualified. So I make it that he's got 1 more lap to serve this. So he needs to be careful. Out front, Tom very comfortable. 6.5 seconds now, just about to the Rudy Geese in 2nd place. Mamalduke further 6 seconds behind, but under quite a bit of threat from Message of Visually Impaired Racing. Banks just hovering in the background of these. Then a little bit of a gap to Cav Bud, who led the whole first half of this race and just had a disastrous strategy for pit stops. Dropped right down out of the running. And some moderate gaps, nearly 2 seconds to Logans in the Ferrari, number 82. And then Braun is a further 1.7 seconds back. And 3.38 seconds to Field Racing Seb in 9th. Borymechkov needs to serve this drive-through or he's going to get disqualified. He's going to let Scooby-Doo through into 10th. No matter what happens, Scooby-Doo got Darras for company in the background. Them now touring around in 14th place with the hairpin. He's got Carson behind him. Seems a long way up this race. Siege still trying to size up the Lexus for a way through. In the final corner, too far back though. Needs to try and get on the back of the Lexus through the chicane and set him up for a pass into T1. Not this lap, just too far back. There's Borymechkov, he's coming through. Going to serve that penalty and rejoin the race. That'd be a bit of a depressing thing when you got to stop go 30. You're going to be right down the back. P21, P22. I was looking at top 10 finish. Schmijak just in front of him. He's showing P21 at the moment. So your Ferrari drivers not having a great race. Griffiths' lead looks solid still at 6.5 seconds over Rudy Geese going through the hairpin. Duque just coming up to the hairpin. Misic right behind him. Less than a second. He's been trying to find that way through for quite a few laps now with no success. Steve Banks possibly starting to lose contact with these two. See the distance opening up. His tyres are starting to go off. Baremechkov rejoining the track. I have to try and figure out where he is. We know for certain Scooby-Doo will have gone through into 10th. I would expect Darius Mihai, Nem, Carson, Beeler as well probably to have gone through. I don't see anybody around him. Baremechkov showing down in 18th. Racing myself is in the hairpin, and I think he's behind. Yep, behind me. Down in 20th he's showing. Paul Martin. Can't tell where he was. Oh, looks very similar. I was in the hairpin as well. I think Baremechkov is indeed behind him. That might be where he is. P21. Bauer showing 50 seconds down. No, he's behind Bauer. What a terrible, terrible result for Baremechkov, showing in P22 now. Rizak, I think, has pulled out the race. He's been in the pits there for quite some time. So Baremechkov, total disaster with that stop-go 30. Meanwhile, out front, Tom Griffiths is actually consolidating his lead slightly. The gap over Geese has gone up to 6.7 seconds. So Tom Griffiths looking good for the victory at the moment. Barring any driver error. And this is Duque, Mishij, visually impaired racing, Steve Banks, the Bentley driver out front. I've been holding off the BMW of VIR quite a few laps, and Steve Banks, who was slightly dropping out of connection with these two, is now back on the back of them. Now Bud is a further 3.1 seconds down on these three. And the McLaren is yo-yoing off the back of these two as the BMW Prestige has a good look and forces his way around the Lexus there. That's an unusual place to manage to get an overtake done. But he's done it. Maybe he caught Duque napping, or he got a bad exit from a Schumacher S's. Going to come back at the BMW. But it needs to be careful not to spin it. It doesn't. Through the kink and up towards the chicane. And so long as Mishij can make a clean entry and exit from the chicane around the final corner, which looks like he has done. Lexus trying to come back on the braking, but that is just a bit of a false hope. The BMW will get on the throttle earlier and pull away again. Get through T1, and it looks like he will do. He's a good few car lengths away from a Lexus of Duque. Mishij has rescued a podium from this situation. Pit Stop Crew of the Day award. I must go to Tom Griffiths' pit stop crew. He's worked wonders following that pit stop. Moved well clear of the rest of the field. I think the gaps behind him are just opening up. So looking really good for Tom Griffiths this round. Rudy Geese in second place. A good solid result. I'm not sure it'll be enough for the championship. Now Mishij has definitely got into third place. Duque immediately starts to drop back behind the BMW. So Mishij is released. It's 8 seconds though to back of Geese. I'm not sure there's enough laps left in this race to be able to get that done. Next closest battle really. Oh, Steve Banks now actually showing on the back of Duque. Duque in all sorts of trouble towards the end of this race, coming up towards turn 11. This is where Mishij got Duque, but not for Banks, not this time around anyway. BMW trying to disappear down the track has opened up a huge gap pretty much straight away. Through the kink on the back straight up towards the chicane again. Having his way through for the McLaren. Well, like he said, what he needs to do is try and keep close to the Lexus, see what can be done into T1. Trying to get a toe, goes a little bit wide there, catches a bit of gravel, and I think that might just cost him a little bit of speed. See the Lexus, he is slowly pulling away. The Lexus is going towards T1. That mistake costing Banks dear there. Cav Bud slowly crawling his way back in as well. Cav Bud is only 1.2 seconds off the back of these. He was 3 seconds just a few laps ago. Logans is coming with him. And just behind them is Brown in my number 3 McLaren. Well, Mihai, who had quite an adventurous first couple of laps, has got his way up to 12th. And he's closing in on Daras, who's currently in 11th. Scooby-Doo did settle into 10th. He's got a gap of over 4.5 seconds to Brown just in front. Griffiths, meanwhile, into a lap 27. Can't be too long left to go on this race. Got a commanding lead over Rudy Geese in second place. Banks still trying to size up the Lexus of Mamalduque, steal that 5th place from him. Quite close in the middle of the top 10 Drivers' Championship, so these two really do need every single point. Leader Tom Griffiths goes over the start-finish line again, start lap 27. Banks. Now this time he's very tight on the back of the Lexus as they go down the start-finish straight into T1. That Lexus has got good acceleration though, he's a lot closer at the exit of the corner. The Lexus stays away. A little bit of dirt on the inside of the corner, but no harm done there at all. Banks needs to hustle the Lexus, try and get in his mirrors and try and get him to move offline a little bit, so he gets a slightly poorer exit for one of the corners, and that might create the opportunity. He needs to get on it soon as well, because Cavboard is closing in slowly but surely. And Cav is desperate for those places to help his Drivers' Championship. Oh, that looked like a mistake then from Logans in the background. You saw the Ferrari going very, very wide there into turn 7. And he lost contact with these. He was only, I think that's more than a second now. I'm not too clever going through the hairpin. It's possible his tyres are starting to go off. Cav Bud now closing right in on the back of Banks. And that's going to help Duque because they'll distract the McLaren driver who's going to have to get defensive. Meanwhile, our leader goes through the chicane around the final corner, complete another lap. Can't figure out when this race is going to end. Not too far away now. And towards T1. Full chance if that implies at least one more lap to go. Lead still over 6 seconds. Sheech nearly 2 seconds clear of Duque straight away, so very, very good speed from Siege from the VIR driver. Duque focusing, I think, on keeping Steve Banks and Bud at distance. Got that distraction for Banks now as Duque to help him of Bud being right in his mirrors. Well, back down the field, Steel Coat closing in on the Beeswax Racing. Howdy, Steve Bezic. He's going to be able to catch him and pass him before the race is over. There's not a lot of time left on the clock now. We're into lap 29. Quite long laps at the Nurburgring. So an hour-long race. You're expecting 29, maybe 30 laps max. Banks, they're all over the back of the Lexus trying to find a way through. Through turn 11 and turn 12. Onto the back straight with the kink. Is the BMW going to get the victory this time? I think we're maybe moving into the ultimate lap. Oh, and Banks has messed it up in the chicane. He's gone well wide. Duque is through. Safe. Bud is also going to go through. Oh, Banks, what have you done? I think he may have... he has recovered. But that's a disastrous choice he made there. It looked like he had to go in the chicane and lost it. What a way to drop out of the... well, he's still inside the top 10 apparently. He's just ahead of Scooby-Doo. There'll be tears behind the steering wheel there because he was all over Duque. 4th place, who's now got a pretty easy run towards the end. The gap back to Bud is nearly 2 seconds. But I don't think there's enough laps for Bud to close up there. Logan's recovered from that overshoot we saw a few laps ago, is now right on the back of Bud. Scooby-Doo, meanwhile, has got 10th place, so just inside the top 10, where he's got both Daras and Mihai queuing up behind him, trying to get through. Tom Griffiths on the back straight, coming up towards the chicane. Can't have too long left in this race. A lot of people battling. We'll be glad when the checkered flag drops. Through the final corner, Griffiths qualified on pole. Overshot T1 completely on the opening of the race. Disappeared at one point with a very early pit stop, which was a very brave choice. And has recovered to the lead of the race and is going round. It looks like he's on another lap. Logan's trying to close right in on Bud as they go through his start-finish line. Start there, next lap. Duque under increasing pressure. Bud is getting closer and he's bringing Logan's with him. I'm not sure there's enough time left for them to make an attack. Lord Nairn 8 seconds out the back of Mihai. He's close on the tail of Daras. To T1. Very close then to the back of the Audi. Need to be careful, Mihai. He has a few interesting incidents at the start of the race. He's getting up the inside of the Audi. Has he managed to... I mean, that was just door-to-door contact. I think that was a good move there from Mihai on the Audi Daras. So another place nipped there almost on the last lap into 11th place. Scooby-Doo just ahead of him. And our race leader, Tom Griffiths, looks like he's going through 11 and 12 there onto the back straight. We're not too far from the finish now. The gap behind De Geese has dropped 5.4 seconds, but there's just not enough time. We need a much longer race for Geese to get back into this one. Mashij has recovered to 3rd place. Nearly 4 seconds clear now of Duque. Through the chicane for Griffiths. Round the final corner onto the start-finish straight. And he's flashing the lights. Then the final round of Season 12 for Tier 8 goes to Tom Griffiths, who takes victory after qualified on pole. Lost it with that mishap on Turn 1 on lap 1. Let Cav Bud through for the longest time, but Cav Bud's pit stop strategy, total disaster. Rudy Geese comes over the line in 2nd place. Mashij Cheat comes over the line in 3rd, and I think that will make him Season 12 champion for Tier 8, so well done to Mashij. Duque managed to hang on for 4th. Cav Bud is going to have to look at that pit stop strategy. That just went totally wrong for him. Recovers to 5th. We had an easy lead in this race, so it all went wrong. Logan's is in the gravel trap but finished in 6th place. Ron already back in the pits at 7th. We'll have a look at the official race results and the final positions on both the Drivers' and Teams' Championship next. Let's look at those race results then. Tom Griffiths took victory in his BMW M4 to take away maximum points, but maybe too little too late in this season. But that's the final round for season 12 to Tom. Rudy Geese came across the line in 2nd, and Mashij Chi of Visually Impaired Racing went into this race leading the Drivers' Championship, and I think maybe close enough to Rudy Geese there to have held on to that. There's 88 points for 2nd and 79 points for 3rd. Manuel Duque from Gently Bentley and Lexus held on for 4th place. Cav Bud was right on his tail there at the end for Red Sport International. Too little too late, I feel. Ellis Logans finished in 6th. Oliver Braun finished in 7th. Field Racing Seb finished 8th. Steve Banks, we saw him going off there with just a couple of laps to go. Total disaster. Right behind Manuel Duque in 5th place, but he did finish 9th in the end. Scooby-Doo rounds out the top 10. Not a great day for the teams. Lord Nairn for Beeswax Racing finishing 13th, having to do a recovery from an incident at the start of the race. Same for myself, Steve Bezic for Beeswax Racing. I finished 18th, having been caught at the end of lap 1. Steelco got that drive-through at the start of the race and managed to recover to 19th for Riders on the Storm. And Paul Martin, the other Gently Bentley and Lexus driver, he also had a difficult time. He finished down in 20th. Cameron Gold for Rev Sport International was a non-finisher today, so he's placed down in 24th. So how does this all look for the Drivers' Championship then? Well, the conclusion of Season 12, Mishiki for Visually Impaired Racing is the championship winner with 532 points. He ended up 31 points clear of Rudy Geese, who came in 2nd. Mashij didn't win a race this season, but there's nothing wrong with that. Consistency was key. 3 second places and a 3rd place today across the season gave him that lead. Rudy Geese made a strong start with 2 victories. Slipped away a little bit in Australia, but finished fairly well, but just wasn't quite enough in the end. The 2nd place today wasn't quite enough to clinch it. Cav Bud managed to recover a position in the Drivers' Championship for Rev Sport International with a decent finish today, but he did feedback later on Discord that he's been suffering with COVID, which explains his slight drop-off in form. Oscar Motin was unable to race today, and that cost him a position in the championship, slips down to 4th place with 403 points. Tom Griffiths moved up 2 places. Manuel Duque did not do enough today. That victory for Tom gave him 5th place in the Drivers' Championship. Manuel Duque, no change in his position, from 6th place despite that 4th place finish. Steve Banks, that big spin towards the end there really did cost him dear. He slips down 2 places into 7th. Tudor Mihai doesn't move from 8th. George Darras also doesn't move from 9th. And Eric Slogans leaps up the standings with that 6th place finish. He finishes 10th overall in the Drivers' Championship. So well done to Mashij and Visually Impaired Racing there for taking the Drivers' Championship for Season 12. Let's hope you enjoy it in Tier 6 or Tier 7, wherever you end up next. On the Teams' Championship, no change this week. Visually Impaired Racing take the championships with 604 points. Mashij didn't even need Blind Guy Murphy today, who didn't race. But I've got a lead of 92 points over the closest team, Rev Sport International. Cav Bud, in the end, was also racing on his own today. Cameron Gold didn't finish, having dropped out in about lap 3. Gently Bentley and Lexus, they take 3rd place. Manuel Duque and Paul Martin did do enough in the end, because it was another bad race for Beeswax Racing. Myself, Steve Bezic and Lord Nem, not very happy with our season overall. A number of bad results across all the 7 rounds, man. We only got 325 points. 124 behind Gently Bentley and Lexus. Urban Led Racing, Stefan Blair, Nico Urban Tar. I don't think they raced today, so they are in 5th place. And Riders on the Storm, Daniel Vallis and Steelco, they round out the Teams' Championship table in 6th place. So well done to VAR for taking the Season 12 Teams' Championship. And that is it for Season 12. We'll be waiting to see what happens for Season 13. There's apparently a big patch to ACC coming. So it'll definitely be after that is released before the next season begins. Hopefully you'll join us then. We've also got an endurance league that was announced shortly after this race, for which Beeswax Racing will have 3 squads. There's no commentated race for that. I am not doing 9-hour commentated race replays, but we will be live streaming from within our cars. Hopefully you'll catch that. If not, I'll see you for the next season, Season 13 on AOR when it comes round. and there may be a bit of a filler season in too, but I've got quite a few things on, so I need to find the time. Thanks for watching. Please leave a comment on your thoughts on the eventual driver and teams championship. Subscribe if you want to catch more races in the future, and do leave a like if you enjoyed. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you all later. Cheerio and bye bye.